Okay, my friends. There is another gun rights case being heard by the Supreme Court. The first gun rights case was about New York City. What happened was in New York City, they went to the extreme with guns licenses. It used to be if you had a gun license for New York City, you could come here. And we had people at my range here. And when I did my armed guard license, we had a guy at the range in Audrey, which is now closed, who was from New York City. Okay, we would have guys from the Bronx because our range in Yonkers is pretty close to the Bronx. So you'd have a lot of guys from the Bronx just stroll over the border into Westchester, the Yonkers, because that range is a few blocks away from them as opposed to going a mile here or 2 miles there. And you had guys in New York City with hunting licenses, obviously not a lot of hunting grounds in New York City, so they would go upstate. Some guys in New York City had cabins upstate. You know, you may have a guy in New York City who is a stockbroker or a lawyer, and he has guns in his house or his apartment in New York City. And on weekends and holidays, okay, he'll go to his house upstate somewhere. Example: my cousin lives in Yonkers. Her husband is a lawyer who practices in New York City, and they have a house in Montauk. In a boat. She gets sick like crazy, emotions, but he drives a boat. Okay, so what happened was New York City eventually clamped down and said, we don't want anyone in our city leaving with their guns. Now, for endless eons, people that lived outside of New York City could not go into New York City. And I talked about that extensively. Okay, anybody in New York City caught with a gun, unless you had a New York City issued gun license for handguns and for long guns, you were arrested immediately. It didn't matter what you had anywhere else. And the only exception is a police officer, retired or active, with proof. And our gun licenses, our handgun licenses outside of New York City literally say not acceptable, not valid in New York City unless retired police officer. And if a retired police officer brought their gun to New York City for whatever reason, whether it was a handgun or a rifle or a shotgun or a rocket launcher, even a fucking BB gun, they had to literally have identification on them saying they were retired police. And they would literally be arrested as the Rikers if they didn't have it on them. And they have retired cops carrying 33 round magazines and they don't give a fuck. But you gotta be a retired cop. So that has been going on forever. And New York City did allow guys to come to Westchester, Putnam, wherever to compete, hunt, whatever. But a few years ago, New York City said from now on, we don't want anybody leaving this city with their gun. If you want a gun in New York City, you can't go anywhere else with it. If you own a gun outside of New York City, you can go anywhere except New York City. Okay? Yeah. And even when you're in New York City, if you buy a gun, you literally need to ask for permission for every gun purchase. And every gun is registered, rifle, shotgun, whatever is registered. So what they're doing is they're complaining that they should be allowed to come to gun ranges outside of the city. They should be allowed to go hunting outside of the city. They should be allowed to go to their property if they out of the city. Now, what they would do is you would literally need to ask for written permission from the police department to go outside of the state with your gun. If you live outside of New York City and you want to go into New York City, you're fucked. No gun. If you live in New York City and you want to leave the city for whatever reason with your gun, compete, hunt, whatever, you must have written permission. And trust me, if you were pulled over leaving New York City with your gun, unless you had your permission letter from the police department on you, you would get arrested. It didn't matter that every other county, city outside of New York City didn't care. It mattered that they cared. And they're contesting that to the Supreme Court. They want to be able to, they have to actually ask the Supreme Court for permission to take their gun to gun ranges outside the city. Written permission. Okay, think about that. The other case they're hearing is the Massachusetts gun ban, which, ironic enough, was implemented by Mitt Romney. Because Mitt Romney is a Republican, right? Okay, now, this gun ban contests the magazines and the firearm accessories, like buttstock, pistol, blah, 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 okay? Now, here's the issue. If the Supreme Court overturns that ban in Massachusetts, I guarantee you other states will not comply. Other states will say, well, that doesn't matter, that's not our ban. Example, Chicago. After the Supreme Court said handguns are legal, Chicago and several other cities in Illinois refused to comply with that. And 2 years later, Otis McDonald, he passed away, but read his book. I have his book, great book. Had to go to the Supreme Court and ask the Supreme Court to uphold the same exact ruling as 2 years earlier in Heller. Okay? Yes. This is real. So, if Massachusetts has the ban overturned, California, New York, New Jersey will probably say it doesn't apply to us. Now, also, they've done things where even after the ruling, they still try to resist somehow. Example, Emily Miller's articles about getting her gun in New York and DC, and the subsequent book, Emily Gets Her Gun, which I have signed, and my picture is back here. Okay. Well, when Emily got her gun, she had to get a license, 10-round magazine, pick a gun from either the Massachusetts list or the California list. She had to go outside the city to take a safety class. She had to go outside the city to shoot because there's no range in DC. The only FFL in DC has an office at the municipal building. And what happens is you buy your gun on a gun broker, they mail it to him, and he signs it over to you. Or you buy your gun outside of the city, he drives out of the city, picks it up for you, brings it back for you, because you can't go out and bring the gun in. Okay? Plus fees, licenses, bullets, all that bullshit. Okay, read your book. It's tremendous. Okay? Now, another scenario would be Chicago. Chicago said, okay, 10-round magazine, not allowed to have it in the backyard, not allowed to have it in your garage, okay, only allowed to have it, blah, 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 okay? Also, they were talking about, for Chicago, it didn't happen, but they were talking about having one handgun per household or some shit. Another example is the Mariana Islands. The Mariana Islands, okay, a lot of those islands that the Japanese and Americans fought over are now American. Okay, Guam, Mariana, there's a whole bunch of islands there that are now American. The natives have been there for thousands of years, but those natives are now American citizens. And they had a handgun ban in effect. And they went to the federal judge, and there was a federal judge on the island, a woman, who said, this is U.S. soil. So because we are a colony of the United States, you must comply with the United States law. And under the United States law, handguns are protected. And the Mariana Islands said, okay, fine, you can have one handgun, $1,000 tax. Okay? what they do is they say, okay, yes, we can, but let's put one more hurdle in. Okay, crippling registration fees that we know you can't afford. Okay, crippling restrictions, which means there's only one gun range 2 hours away, and it's only open on the weekdays. Okay, they figure out some way to fuck with you more. And what you gotta do is you either gotta live with that, or you gotta go back to court again. Okay, another 6 years, another 10 years. Okay, now if you look at 2013 New Year's Eve, they had a ruling in a federal court in New York State where they said magazine capacity, which was supposed to be 7 rounds, is now back to 10 rounds. Okay, but the accessories ban is constitutional. Within 2 minutes of that ruling being made, the Nazi said, okay, the magazine ruling, which restores magazine capacity to 10 rounds, only applies to the town where the courthouse is located. The accessories ban applies to the entire state. So, low barrier, I gotta end it pretty soon. So, the part of the ruling that I agree with applies everywhere. The part of the ruling I don't agree with applies in one town. Okay? So they continually fuck with you. Because they know, the politicians know, that the Supreme Court is not going to hold them in contempt. I have never in my life seen the Supreme Court order U.S. Marshals to arrest someone for failing to comply with their verdict. Now, another idea would be abortion. Hear me out. 7 justices said that a woman has the right to an abortion. Okay, that means abortion, underage girl, no parental permission. That means abortion 9 months pregnant. That means abortion funded by the taxpayer. Okay? When the Supreme Court makes a ruling on abortion, that means abortion is legal everywhere, no restrictions, do whatever you want, late-term abortion, okay, after the baby's born, kill the baby, okay? When the court makes a ruling on guns, okay, well, yeah, but you gotta do this first. Yeah, but you gotta do this too. So Massachusetts may very well say, okay, the Supreme Court says the ban on assault weapons is lifted. Fine. You want to buy an AR-15? One AR-15 per household. $1,000 tax. Have to have a safe. We get to inspect the safe every 6 months. Okay? And they may be like, okay, 500-pound safe, drilled into the floor, alarm, okay? Like in New Zealand and Australia, they require you to have safes. They require a safe to be X amount of dimensions, X amount of strength, X amount of durability, require bolted to the floor, require alarm system, okay? They may pull that shit out. So watch out for that case. Also watch out for Justice Kavanaugh. Now that Justice Kavanaugh is seated on the bench, they are hearing 2 gun cases. You go from 0 to 2. Okay? From 2010 to 2019, not a single gun case heard until Justice Kavanaugh was seated. So expect that another allegation coming out about him. And if he rules to overturn any ban in any way at all, period, if he rules on the slightest restriction being lifted, another accuser, guaranteed. Okay, thank you guys.